All right, well, I have 3 minutes after 1. Given the brevity of this call, we're going to go ahead and get started. For those of you that just joined in, my name is Mark McWatters. I'm the Director of Client Solutions here at the Work Institute. Excited to spend some time with you here today and talk about the benefits of partnering with the Work Institute and how we may be able to help your organization. As we get started here, I'll pull up a brief agenda for us. The first thing we're going to walk through is problems that we solve. And I really want you to think about your business as we're talking about those things. We're also going to have some rhetorical questions where you think about your organization and what's taking place at your specific group. We'll introduce you to some background of who the Work Institute is, talk about our approach to research, a little bit about reporting, taking action, and ultimately pricing and implementation of what a partnership with the Work Institute entails. So let's dive right in. So Mark, what is it that the Work Institute does? I think the first thing you need to focus on is what type of problems do we solve? And you're going to see several here on your screen, and hopefully some of these will resonate with you. The primary reason people call us is because they need help solving their retention issues. So whether that's turnover, engagement, you see here first-year retention, key department turnover. Everything is tied into how can you get a better return on investment with what you're doing to collect employee feedback. So part of our job at the Work Institute is to streamline that process, collect the most actionable data, drive the highest response rates, and minimize the turnover costs at your organization. So is it that you have bad data? Poor processes, perhaps you just don't have enough manpower to collect this information yourself, or you realize that by using an outside third party, you'll get better, more actionable information if you choose the right research principles. Maybe it's your reporting isn't very easy for you to take and act on, or perhaps compliance issues are something that you feel more comfortable with an outside third party conducting. You also see leadership concerns, and quantifying impact. What I mean by quantifying impact is what is the financial impact of this research, and also how do we track that reduction in turnover or that increase in engagement. And for many of you, you may be thinking, Mark, we just don't know where to start. We know we need more information on our employees. We know we need to reduce turnover, but we're not sure where to get started. Well, that's where the Work Institute can help. So think about your organization. Why have you hopped on this webinar today? Perhaps it's to learn some best practices, or perhaps it's because things are taking place at your organization that you know could be improved, and you're interested in the value of partnering with the Work Institute. So think about what's happening at your company in terms of turnover. Where is that turnover taking place? Are there key departments where you specifically have higher turnover than others? Do you monetize that turnover? What does it cost for someone to leave your organization? And if you were to partner with the Work Institute, how would you measure success? Is that a reduction in the amount of people that have left your organization in the first year? Is that a reduction in those costs, the expenses associated with turnover? If you ask your CFO, what is the largest part of what is their largest expense on the balance sheet? More often than not, they're going to tell you their people. And in order to reduce the expense associated with the turnover of those people, the onboarding, the training, the development, then we need to make sure that we're giving your employees an avenue to share their expectations, their intents, their preferences, so we can reduce turnover. So I challenge you to think about your organization. Where is that turnover taking place, and what are you doing to combat those issues? Well, let me introduce you to the Work Institute a little bit here. So we've been around since 2000, headquartered here in Nashville, Tennessee. If any of you hear a twang in my voice, that's because of our location. And what I've pulled up here on the screen are some bullet points as to why people tell us that they partner with the Work Institute. Anytime someone decides to move forward, I'll always ask them, hey, can you tell me why you chose the Work Institute? And these things come up most often. The first is we have a very proven research principle approach. And what that means is that we're using data to lead our processes. We did roughly 40,000 interviews last year alone. and we use that data to refine what's working best in these different types of workforce research. I'm going to share some of those specific principles. How many questions? How long should the interview take? When should we be talking to these people? We're going to cover a few of those here this afternoon. The second part is our Navigator reporting system. It's very easy, clean, user-friendly. It automates reports. You have unlimited access, unlimited users. Very easy to take this information and to really find the answers you're looking for in that reporting system. What I perhaps hear most often is our support on the back end. People that contact the Work Institute are interested in a true partnership. They want us to help them reduce turnover, not just simply collect data and tell you good luck. Well, we provide this first-class analysis in terms of quarterly data debriefs, executive level summaries, custom reports. Each partner of the Work Institute has a dedicated client services team member that helps them with the analysis of their research. We also help you look at that through a financial lens. So what is the impact of this research, the impact of reducing turnover or increasing engagement at your organization? This will help you share the information across different departments at your company to where people understand the value of giving that voice. And then lastly, we've been trusted by a bunch of big names and a bunch of complex organizations. From a credibility standpoint, I know that helps give people comfort, but also just helps you all understand some people that have trusted us with their business. I'm going to show you a few of those here in just a minute. Now, if you think about where is the Work Institute partnering with these organizations, what are some of the pillars of workforce research? You see some on your screen now. So number one, being that new hire onboarding study. We complete recruitment assessments. Perhaps it's an offer decline study at your business. Or it's an onboarding type conversation. What do those first 60, first 90 days look like, and how can you improve? How has their perception of the company changed in that time period? And what is their intent to stay based off that first 60 or first 90 days? We also conduct pulse questions, so monthly questions that go out to different people within the organization. A great way for you to keep a quote-unquote pulse on what's happening with your workforce. We're all familiar with engagement studies. Of course, we do a lot of engagement work, talking across that entire employee population. Perhaps you haven't done an engagement study before and you're looking to build a baseline. The Work Institute can do that for you. The fastest growing part of our business is number 4 that you see here, stay interviews. A lot of energy around how do you keep your employees longer. Well, with a stay interview by the Work Institute, we can help quantify that intent to stay. How long will Joe Smith stay at your organization, and why would Joe Smith consider leaving? By using an unbiased third party and using our proven research principles, we can get you those answers, allowing you to combat that turnover before it takes place. And then also exit interviews. The Work Institute has been around for 15 years, making a lot of noise in the exit interview space. As far as leading with your proven research principles, making exit interview data actionable, and helping you understand why people are leaving your business, there's no one better than the Work Institute. So hopefully this frames up the entire employee life cycle. You see feedback loop, because it's all about giving your employees a voice. And whether that's in the first 60 or 90 days, perhaps that's in your annual or biannual engagement study, stay interviews, or an exit conversation, there are many avenues to collect this feedback. Now, a few of our clients, to give you an idea of some of the organizations that we work with, you'll certainly see some names you recognize. Rather than this being a not-so-humble brag slide, the purpose of this is to show you the different industries and different types of employers that the Work Institute partners with. You'll see names in retail, finance, automotive, healthcare. Rather than simply brag about a couple names, what's also important is that you know we can talk to the many different types of employees within your workforce. What drives your sales team is going to be very different than what drives your finance group. Or what drives your HR team may be very different than what drives your nurses. So it's important that the methodology you use speaks across all of these types of employees. Now, as we think about our approach to research, I really want you to focus on these bottom 2 parts of this slide. The first is mixed methodology. Mark, how do we collect the most actionable data? It's combining the qualitative and quantitative parts of your research. So giving you the trending information based off of the quantitative answers, such as a rating question, on a scale of excellent, very good, good, fair, or poor, how do you feel about X? By giving you that rating, you can trend that over time very easily in the reporting system. But if someone rates their supervisor as excellent and doesn't tell you why, what can you really take from that? You need to know the qualitative part of that research. So by starting with a rating and following up with the whys, we can combine those qualitative and quantitative parts. The second thing I want you to focus on is getting results. Again, the Work Institute isn't a partner who simply wants to partner with every organization out there. We want to partner with organizations who are ready to take action and who are ready to drive change and become a more preferred employer. By partnering with the Work Institute, your success is our success. It's simple to think about. If we're not providing value to your company, then why are you going to work for us or work with us? So it's important that you know we're bought in to helping you achieve the results you're looking for. Now, as we look at the 6 different things that we need to consider in any workforce research project, we have to start with these research principles, which we're going to look at here on the next slide. But we also need proper communication ahead of time, setting expectation with your employees that we'll be contacting them. And why are we contacting them, and who is the Work Institute? So by having this proper communication ahead of time, it will drive higher response rates within your feedback and more actionability with what your employees are telling us. Now also the questionnaire design. A lot of people think you can throw any type of question at your employees to collect data. Well, you can, but in order to optimize it, you need the right types of questions, which we briefly hit on just a minute ago. So we're going to look at some of that questionnaire design. You also need a partner who can execute the research internally. If you don't have the resources to do this yourself, it's important that who you partner with does. The Work Institute has 25 to 30 researchers, depending on languages that we're supporting, that are ready to collect this feedback, to dig deeper, to get you that actionability, in addition to the support staff here in Nashville, Tennessee. Now, reporting, of course, is critical. Collecting the feedback alone isn't going to help implement change at your organization. You need easy reporting that spits out what it is you need to go do and where to make that change. And lastly, taking action. We can collect the best information in the world, but if it sits on a shelf or sits in your computer system and no one does anything with it, it won't be helpful. So taking action is the Achilles heel to making sure that this works properly. And ask yourself, is my business ready to take action, ready to implement change based on the feedback that we collect? Now, as we look at these proven research principles, I've thrown a few up here to highlight that can pretty much work across any type of employee or former employee conversation that you would have with your workforce. The first are these 7 to 11 open-ended questions. Now you might say, Mark, where do you get 7 to 11 open-ended questions? The design here is to keep the interview length 12 to 15 minutes. Feedback fatigue is a very real thing. Think about when you've taken an interview or you've completed a survey. At about the 15-minute point, the level of detail is going to drop off significantly. So by structuring your interview to be 12 to 15 minutes, 7 to 11 open-ended questions, we double probe for specificity within each of these topics. What this does is it allows your employee to tell us what's important to them and for us to probe deeper to get down to that specificity, that actionability that you're ultimately going to use. Now, in any type of workforce research, exit interview or stay interview or engagement or onboarding type conversation, there are 2 methods for you to consider. The first would be the phone, and second being the web. When the Work Institute uses our phone model in any of these methods, we will make up to 6 outbound calls. Now think about your exit interviews in particular. In order to drive higher response rates, you also have to think about when are you contacting these people. Data shows us 41% of your reasons for leaving will change between the last day of employment and at least 2 weeks afterwards. If you've left a business before, it's an emotional process. Whether you loved that company or hated that company, there are relationships there, there are projects you've been working on, and it's difficult as you leave. When that exit interview takes place in the last day, the conversation becomes more about those emotions as opposed to the entire employee experience when we have this conversation 2+ weeks later. And that's really what you're looking for. You want to know about the entire experience, about their relationship with the supervisor, how they felt about the company, and why did they ultimately leave. By providing this 2+ week buffer, 41% of those reasons for leaving will change. Now the 6 calls are going to help drive your response rate. Our average response rate last year in an exit interview was 63%. Now that's on 40,000-ish interviews. As you shop the industry and talk to other folks, that 63% number is one that can't be beat. We are constantly vetted by other vendors and by other organizations, and that 63% number is really strong. Now, as you think about your other types of workforce research with stay interviews or engagement, or your current employee conversations, in addition to onboarding, the web interview is a great thing to consider. With our web interview, it actually mimics the phone interview and continues to dig for that actionability within the survey. Now, the length is still roughly that 12 to 15 minutes. We're sending multiple web reminders for completion for your current employees. And it's also important that each of them has a unique login. Now, you might say, wait, Mark, now that means that we can tie it back to the individual employee. Actually, we're creating these unique logins that still can promise confidentiality to your employee without tying it back to the individual. What that does is it still protects confidentiality for the current employee interview, but it also avoids the employee self-identifying that information. If an employee has the option to self-identify, it can jeopardize the authenticity of your data. They could put they work for a different department. They can say their supervisor is someone else. They can put in someone else's name, and all of a sudden your data, you can't trust it. So it's important that all of this matching, all of these unique identifiers take place in the background. Now what's also important is who's conducting these interviews telephonically. That would be your behavioral interviewer here at the Work Institute. They are trained in these open-ended conversations. How do they dig deeper? How do they get more responses, more actionability? And then they're actually coding the responses on the back end to where our reporting system can make it nice and easy for you to see what's being said. What's also important, of course, as a research principle is this external third party. A very similar number to what I mentioned earlier, 40% of your reasons for leaving in an exit interview will change between an internal and an external conversation. Now the same goes for why people would stay at your organization. So if 2 out of 5 of those responses or 4 out of 10 of those responses are ones that may change if an external person talks to them, why would you want to jeopardize that data? So really important that you have an external person in this conversation. Now let's take a look at the questionnaire and how this mixed methodology is structured. Here's a sample, and what you're really looking at here is a guide that our interviewer or our online system would be using. So on a scale of excellent, very good, good, fair, poor, how would you rate the company as an employer? If excellent, fair, or poor, asking why. Now also, if they were to say very good or good, we're also following up with why. But then we're asking them what would it take to earn an excellent rating. By asking that what would it take to earn an excellent rating after the very goods and goods, it's going to dig into those 1 or 2 reasons that may be the difference between a very good employer or a very good supervisor and an excellent employer or an excellent supervisor. And that's data you need. Now after that, we're probing for this specificity. You see here for up to 4 responses. If they give us 10, we take down 10. But 4 is a good guide for our interviewer. The Work Institute averages 2.1 reasons per rating. So by digging deeper in this open-ended approach, we're getting down to those actionable details. Then at the very end, we're following up and asking, based on you giving us X, Y, and Z as to how you rated your company, which is the most important? You may be thinking, Mark, of course, the first reason is the most important because that's what came to mind first. Well, 30% of the time, the second, third, or fourth reason given is noted as the most important. So I ask you again, if you want to trust your data and know that the data that you have is information that you feel comfortable acting on, wouldn't you want all of that information to be correct? And if you don't do it the right way, 30% of those most important details could be missed. So driving home this mixed methodology, this rating, followed up by these whys, and probing for specificity. Now once the interviews are complete, they come into our Navigator reporting system. As I mentioned earlier, it's really important that Navigator be clean, friendly, easy for you to hop in and to pull data. Now in our system, it's available 24/7, 365. You can export different reports to Excel, PDF, Word, PowerPoint. Have as many people in the system as you'd like, and we can also segment the usage. So if you're a director of HR in X healthcare system, and you only want your HR business partner to have access to Y department, then you can set that up in our reporting system. Now we don't have enough time here today to walk you through a live demo because we could spend hours in the system showing you reports. If you'd like to do that, by all means, please send me a chat and we can walk through a more detailed look at Navigator, show you high-level reports, how we drill down, how does it automate reports into your inbox, how does that system take the outputs and make it easy on you, the user, to take it and implement change. Now once you've gotten your feedback, how are you taking action? This is how the Work Institute wants to take that feedback, and how do we look at it in order to be successful within this research program. The first is, what's the low-hanging fruit, right? What can we change immediately? Because you're going to have areas of opportunity that you can take and change very quickly. It's also important to mention, too, you're going to have a lot of success that you get from the feedback, so what can you celebrate? But let's be honest, you're hiring us to find those opportunities, and what can we change? So low-hanging fruit we can change immediately. Secondly, what needs further investigation? We may need more data because implementing that change would be a fundamental difference in the business. So maybe we're collecting more information on certain topics. We're making commitments with you all and following through on what's going to take place as we adjust things within the organization. We're also tracking the progress of what's taking place, measuring the results. Is your turnover reducing? Is your engagement climbing? Is your rating of supervisor increasing? And then communicating the success back internally. If you're our key point of contact, it's our goal to make you the hero. While the Work Institute may be collecting the feedback, you're the one implementing change, and we want you to be able to tell that story internally of what you've done to help improve your retention program. Now, if this is a current employee initiative, you're also going to communicate the success back to your employees. Hey, we heard you. You said that we needed to improve this. This is what we've done about it. What that will do is increase response rates on subsequent studies, and it will also help with more actionability as people trust that something will be done with this data. So the fun part, pricing. The Work Institute tries to keep everything simple. Whether that's being able to call directly in and not going through a phone tree and someone answering the phone immediately, to the way that we structure our pricing, the partnership is built to be very easy on you. As we see here for pricing, there are only two parts. There is a one-time implementation, and then there is a per record cost, so per name that you would send us. So very easy for, once you have the specific numbers, to understand what your total investment would be. So I know you're thinking, Mark, well, we want specific numbers. Some of these numbers are going to be based off of volume. As I'm sure you would expect, the more that's sent to us, the more that there may be a difference in that price. I encourage you, if you're interested in getting specific pricing for your organization, to chat with me or follow up with me after this to ask more specifics about what that pricing would look like for your organization. It's our goal to meet you where you are, and what we mean by that is we know budgets dictate this process. So the more we can understand about what resources you have available, the more we can optimize a program specifically for you. Now, once you've given us the go-ahead and we get into implementation, there are really only three key implementation milestones. The first is you're going to review and approve a questionnaire template that we provide you. Now, it's not something that is set in stone, but it is a recommendation on our end of what we've seen to work best within your type of organization. We're also going to provide you a data file template. So how do you send us the employee demographic information, the name, the phone number, the department, the email address, the supervisor, performance rating. Anything you want to send us on the back end, we can use to slice and dice your data, giving you one more layer of making it more valuable. Now also communication templates, as I mentioned earlier, communicating this properly ahead of time will be vital to making it successful. When we have templates built out, what should your senior leader be using to notify people about this? What should your HR leaders be using to notify their teams? We have that built for you, taking away one more step. Now you ultimately are going to approve it, so we're going to share those documents. But these three things on average take our partner 2 weeks. Now it also only takes the Work Institute another 2 weeks to get this from signature to launch. And I've seen on many occasions this be much quicker. For example, we had a partner come on board 2 weeks ago that was launched in 3 days. So the quicker you can act, you will never be waiting on the Work Institute because we're an urgent organization. In order to meet your needs, we know we need to act quickly. So that was our brief 30-minute walkthrough of what a partnership with the Work Institute would look like. I hope you take away the expertise that's involved in this partnership, the simplicity of bringing value to your organization, proven research principles that we would use in order to collect the best feedback, simple reporting for you to log in and see the different information and what you need to do to take action, and a true partnership where you have a dedicated person who's helping you with the analysis and ensuring that this is valuable. But most importantly, I hope you walk away with that we get results. If you want to partner with an organization that's going to help you meet your goals when it comes to retention, when it comes to turnover, when it comes to employee engagement, the Work Institute is your partner. So if you have questions, if you have things you want to follow up with me about, I've even listed my cell phone number on here, the 6605 number at the bottom. You'll also see my email address as well. So feel free to reach out to me with additional information. Happy to help you in any way that we can. Thanks again for spending some time this afternoon with the Work Institute, and I look forward to hearing from you.